After 32 years, survivor of the July 27th attempted coup, Wendell Eversley, says those in authority past and present have not done enough to recognize the events of that day. Today, Wednesday, he made his annual trek from the Dial in Arima at 5 a.m. to the Red House in Port of Spain. Mahalia Joseph Wharton has more.
And survivor of the July 27 attempted coup, Wendell Eversley, does the walk with the hope that the government of the day will fully recognize the 1990 attempted coup. As he continued his yearly walk in Trinidad on Wednesday, he said he doesn't have to do the walk in Tobago anymore.
I must thank the Tobago House of Assembly for making it official come 2023. I don't have to walk in Tobago again. It's now for the central government to act upon Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm crying shame this morning on the 41 members of parliament who sitting in the seat of democracy, which was under attack 32 years ago.
When he arrived at the Red House, he was joined by other supporters as well as the daughter of one of the victims who died during the attempted coup, Afisha Caballero. She was 11 when she learned that her mother, Lorraine Caballero, was killed in the Red House.
But I want to tell Trinidad and Tobago, 32 years ago, I watched her mother bleed to death in this parliament chamber here, and I could not have helped her. Why? Staring at me in my eyes, a gun over my head, and I had to watch blood pouring out her mother's mouth and on the side of her belly. And I was helpless.
Mr. Eversley announced that he will be writing a book on the events of that day, as the story must not be forgotten. The coup was the Jamaat al-Muslimin's attempt to overthrow the government of Trinidad and Tobago. For 6 days, the group led by Yassin Abubakar held hostages, including then Prime Minister A.N.R. Robinson and government officials at the Red House and at state-owned television broadcaster Trinidad and Tobago Television, TTT. Mahalia Joseph Wharton, TTT News.
And as the nation reflects on the events which unfolded on this date, July 27th in 1990, for the first time, the Tobago House of Assembly hosted a wreath-laying ceremony in commemoration of this historic event, the attempted coup. Chief Secretary Farley Augustine, along with other THA officials, representatives of the police service and the Defence Force, gathered at James Park, Scarborough. Mr. Augustine said the selflessness of former chairperson, Prime Minister and President Arthur Napoleon Raymond Robinson must be celebrated.
Be shot, to be under duress, and to still instruct the country and the armed forces to attack with full force is to say to the country, I don't mind dying. I don't mind shedding my blood so long as parliamentary democracy is sustained, so long as your freedoms are sustained. And so I believe Robinson's act should always be honored on a day like today. And Tobago has every reason to be proud.
The nephew of A.N.R. Robinson also laid a wreath in honor of his uncle. Chief Secretary Augustine added the actions of Mr. Robinson and others during the attempted coup, parliamentary democracy and freedom can be celebrated.
The freedom of the press, because the press was taken over, and media house was taken over during that time. We're talking about freedom of movement. We had restriction of movement across that period. And during the 6 days, we had loss of lives, loss of livelihoods.
Sad. That is the adjective the director of Edu Talk, Ronald Mutu, used to describe the history of July 27, 1990. A history, he said, that is not taught in the nation's schools. Mr. Mutu told TTT News the school curriculum does not demand that teachers educate students about the attempted coup. He said teachers would sometimes use elements of the insurrection if they think it is necessary. Mr. Mutu referred to a comment by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley at a history book launch in July 2019, where he said the curriculum was ineffective in developing the quality citizens that the country should anticipate. Mr. Mutu, however, noted that there has never been any discussion at the policymakers level to structure that approach into the syllabus.
Education system really, facilitates teaching for exams. And that is not on the syllabus, so it's not examined. So it's not really taught, consistently as one of our teaching topics.
Mr. Mutu reasoned that part of the problem is that Caribbean history is taught over territorial history. He suggested one solution would be to use the law forms to teach Trinidad and Tobago's history specifically.
What is happening, and not only in Trinidad, because in Grenada with their revolution, that is lost in the regional history. So each island will have its own unique, milestones, if you want to put it like that. Its own unique markers, but it is lost in the collective history of the region.
When TTT News reached out to the Education Ministry, a representative stated the decision to include the attempted coup on the curriculum would have to be a decision made by the policymakers.